going to start this one with Chapter 2, Taking a New Perspective on Anger. We're out here at Pretty Water / Lake Sahoma, and so there will be traffic and there will be noise because I'm in the wild. So let's see how this goes today. Thank you for being with me. Chapter 2, Taking a New Perspective on Anger. As I go through each day, tending to the daily duties and pleasures of life, I encounter many different people doing the same. I watch them and talk with them and feel sad. So many of these people deny the aspect of themselves that makes them most fully human, the ability to have and enjoy emotions, to feel about, to feel toward, to feel for. I have a friend who once argued that negative feelings couldn't be enjoyable. I reminded her that she had seen 5 showings of the movie Love Story and cried each time. If sadness is so unenjoyable, why pay money, not once but 5 times, to live through a sad experience? The same is true of fear. Whenever a new ride, supposedly more scary than the last, is built at the amusement park, she makes it a point to be one of the first to ride it. If fear is so bad, why pay to be frightened? Anyone's average day can provide the same emotions for free. There is a difference. At the movies or amusement parks, people let themselves experience these feelings without judging them, bad or unacceptable. The misinformation about feelings that operates during most of the day. People set aside during such activities. All right, I'm going to reread that sentence. The misinformation about feelings that operates during most of the day. People set aside during such activities. They stop fighting the emotion and allow themselves to experience it for just what it is and nothing more. The result can actually be a pleasant sensation. The emotion itself isn't what is most unpleasant. The judgments about it cause the greatest discomfort. Only by moving beyond these judgments and the resultant discomfort can a person learn to experience emotions, including anger, as they occur. Anyone who understands what anger really is can set aside misconceptions and realize that, like any emotion, it is functional. Not only is anger not dangerous, it can be useful. And the first section of Chapter 2, anger is a feeling. There we go. Anger is a feeling. Most people agree that anger is a feeling, an emotion. With only a quick glance and not much thought, this view appears to be a simple, clear-cut idea. But what do the words emotion and feeling mean? We must agree on a workable, practical understanding of the vocabulary. An emotion or feeling is an internal reaction. This reaction is a biophysical response, a physical sensation created when certain chemicals increase in the body. When the body releases endorphins, for instance, a sensation of contentment and well-being results. Humans recognize this physical reaction as happiness or gladness or joy. The re in reaction indicates that the chemicals and the resultant sensation are a response to something, usually to an external event or stimulation. Feelings may occur within an external Feelings may occur without an external stimulus when a biophysiological chemical imbalance is present. This imbalance can be as minor as that caused by hunger, which produces an anxious feeling, or as major as the imbalance that causes manic depression and illness with vast mood swings. When the imbalance is corrected, the feelings fade. Some people may argue that no external event has occurred when they imagine or create an incident in their minds and then experience emotional responses to these mental images. In this situation, the event is similar to the images of a movie, but this movie is viewed on a screen in a very private projection room. The mind suspends reality, and the person experiences the scenes as though they were really happening in the present. In essence, part of the mind operates on the belief that the show is a real-life external event. Defining an emotion as an internal reaction to an external event is adequate only in the discussion of animals other than man. At this level, feelings are instinctive and used most often for physical survival. Human beings still have this primitive aspect in their array of functioning abilities. It comes from what can be called the old brain and is experienced most intensely during times of immediate danger, when survival depends on action without thought. Through evolution, the human mind has developed what can be considered an additional brain. This new brain, the neocortex, provides the human species with a unique faculty to abstract, symbolize, and convey information. With this development, we gained the ability to think about, differentiate, and label various internal reactions. Since the new brain is not an organ that operates on instinct, we must learn these functions. With this learning, emotions take on another dimension, which must be included in the definition, socialization. A human being learns to name her internal reactions. This labeling involves experiencing, differentiating, and naming each biophysiological sensation. People learned this complex behavior at a young age. In one study, children knew how to label the 4 basic emotions with the descriptive words of mad, glad, sad, and afraid by the age of 6. If such young children have learned, they must have had teachers, the people immediately involved in the children's lives. This understanding of an emotion or feeling permits a definition of anger. We continue. Anger is an internal reaction which an individual learns to name to an external event. The emotional process is straightforward and physically based. An incident occurs that stimulates the brain to direct the production of the chemical necessary for an anger response. Physical sensation consists of increased heart and pulse rate, shallow, quick breathing, flushed skin, increased muscle tension, increased temperature, and possible tremors and perspiration. These biophysiological reactions happen because an extra supply of a stimulant has been added to the bloodstream. The metabolism speeds up and the body responds accordingly. The individual labels the complete experience anger. From this perspective, anger certainly doesn't seem so inauspicious. In fact, when I saw my friend's husband look at their child and say in a menacing voice, "Daddy's getting angry," I very much wanted to respond, "What's the big deal? Daddy has a little extra adrenaline and the ability to label it." But I refrained. I thought it wouldn't help the father's attitude or the child's situation. The important point is that anger, like any other emotion, is nothing more than the body's internal response to the release of a natural chemical. It removes much of the emotion's potency to realize that, in itself, anger isn't dangerous, threatening, or hurtful. Page 17, the next part. Anger is not a gigantic mistake. Every emotion has a result directly related to the well-being of humanity. Loneliness brings people together, forming social units, and through numbers and cooperation, making it possible for the species not only to survive, but to dominate the world. Guilt helps to keep order and to restrain behavior by indicating violations of socially dictated values. Fear signals danger. It is the body's warning that a threatening situation is at hand. It alerts a person to readiness. Anger is no exception, nor was it a colossal mistake in the development of Homo sapiens. Evolution did not take a wrong turn, and through some bizarre quirk of nature, produce a mutation of brain or gene which resulted in an unnatural, deviant emotion that reduced the chances for further development and species enrichment. In fact, anger has many functions. Modern life would be very different and much more difficult if anger had been omitted or eliminated from the human experience. Survival. Of anger's many functions, the most basic is survival. Without it, the human race probably wouldn't have made it to this century, or if it had, far fewer people would be alive today. Anger is a necessary ingredient in hands-on fighting, although that factor may not seem important in modern civilization. It was crucial before the technological era, when physical defense against larger, stronger animals demanded that a human fight or be killed. Anger is the emotion that provided the incentive to struggle against the elements and to accomplish what would have been physically impossible without the additional strength that seems to accompany anger. Adrenaline, the chemical involved in anger arousal, produces a numbing effect on the body, which allows a person to continue fighting when hurt. The individual doesn't experience pain until after the struggle, when the adrenaline level drops. This dampening of pain serves another purpose and makes the human being stronger. The body's strength is far greater in anger than in average activities. If exertion is attempted, If exertion is attempted when adrenaline is not present, pain limits what the body can do. Without pain, the body comes closer to reaching its absolute strength potential. This power makes the human being's success in a physical struggle more likely. Anger also creates a tunnel vision effect that concentrates attention onto the opposing force. During the struggle, the individual's energies cannot be diverted easily. Anger allows him to focus on the battle. Both external and internal distractions are eliminated. Self-doubt and fear of failure do not impinge on the combatant's ability to struggle. In effect, the individual does not defeat the self. Culture, communication, and motivation. All right, the next one is culture. Culture. Anger functions in any culture as a social regulator. It defines social behavior and protects societal values. Each culture determines when an angry response is appropriate and how that response is to be expressed. Anger is considered appropriate when the norms, mores, and laws of the culture are violated. The intensity of the response depends upon the importance of the violations. Thus, anger defines the boundaries of acceptable behavior for social situations. What I considered a rather innocuous behavior, a woman's hugging Queen Elizabeth during a visit to America, received media coverage around the world. An English friend of mine was outraged, exclaiming, "How dare she touch the Queen?" I thought, why not? A good hug never hurt anybody. To my friend's way of thinking, formed by her English upbringing, the norms established for royalty had been violated, and she responded with anger. This function of anger can be seen in the list, "What makes you angry?" The answers, rude people, prejudiced, yelling, child abuse, and inconsiderate people, are all culturally determined. Each society sets the definition of rudeness, inconsideration, and child abuse. While disciplining a child, for instance, a Native American might find it rude and become angry if the child looked at him. An Irish American might become angry if the child didn't look at him. Culture determines what is deemed inconsiderate. The generation gap is also a culture gap. The generation gap is also a culture gap. Child abuse in America has been defined differently from one generation to another. Spare the rod, spoil the child was a guiding rule of child rearing during my parents' youth. Many people my age, however, become angry when they witness parents controlling children's behavior by using any type of physical punishment. Perceptions of rudeness also differ in various regions because of culture. A person from the Bronx may hear patrons in a genteel southern restaurant mutter, "How rude," if he yells out his order. In this natural environment in New York deli during lunch hour, this behavior won't be noticed. In fact, it may be the only way he can get lunch. Anger also functions as a social bond. When a group of people focuses anger collectively on an outside group, individual, or situation, the shared anger ties individuals of the group together. They have a common enemy. The lines of we versus they are drawn. To be a member of the we group, an individual must be angry at the they group. This phenomenon is often observed in the workplace, where persons of diverse personal interests come together for 8 hours a day. Their common bond being the way they earn a living. Co-workers may build cohesiveness by developing angry feelings focused on a mutual enemy. The conversation may ridicule outsiders with sarcasm or gossip. This enemy can be the management, another unit, another individual, not in the group, or even another company. To belong in the group, an individual must take an active role in these conversations because it is the behavior that fuels the anger, draws the involved people together, and strengthens the sense of we. A person who does not participate in the angry discussions is not considered a part of the group. In fact, when not physically present in the group, she may even become a they. Here. 3 more little paragraphs. Alright. This bonding may undermine worker morale and at times may hamper job performance or even result in sabotage, especially when cooperation between units, management, other companies, and diverse workers is essential to production. If performance is contingent on completion with outsiders, the anger produced by this type of social bonding can be used as an incentive for greater effort and harder work. In the 1991 World Series, for example, managers put columns from the opposing city's newspapers on bulletin boards to stir the home team. Another highly visible form of social bonding by anger occurs in activist groups. Often these groups comprise people from very different walks of life who have little in common except angry feelings about a particular social issue. When the social issue is resolved, the group either disbands or focuses on another issue. Some group member may not share the same anger about the new issue and therefore drop out of the group. New members may join. We do not feel angry about the first issue, but do about the second. It isn't the issues, but the angry feelings about the issues that bring and hold the individuals together as a group. The final paragraph. Activist groups demonstrate another cultural function of anger. Angry feelings act as the ignition and impetus for social change. Without anger over social injustice, America would still be under British rule and paying taxes to England. Afro-Americans would still be enslaved, and women would still be the property of their husbands. In each of these situations and countless others, it was anger about a social injustice that provided people with the motivation and necessary courage to stand up against a strongly entrenched system at the risk of their own well-being. Fight for change. Without anger, these battles would never have been started. If started, they certainly would never have been sustained. Thank you for being with me. I appreciate you. I've been reading to you from the Anger Workbook by Lorraine Bilodeau, MS.